really what everyone was wondering when it comes to The Flash, the movie that was heralded as the greatest comic book movie of all time. It's a masterpiece, says random Hollywood celebrity number 12. People were wondering, is it really going to be that good as these people are trying to make it out to be? That was certainly not the case. Those were lies that were spun, that were pushed to try to get people interested in this. But even so, I don't think people were expecting it to be this bad at the box office. We started to see, 70, 75, $80 million opening weekend. That would have been bad for Warner Brothers. That would have been a disappointment, but that cannot compare to what we ended up getting, a $55 million 3-day opening. Not only is this behind Black Adam, it's significantly behind Black Adam's $67 million start. And even when you look at it globally, it's behind Black Adam globally as well, estimated right now around $139 million. That could actually be less by the time these numbers actually get finalized. But holy shit, this is bad. And
This is awful.
I think really when you look at the grand scheme of things, it shows you what an absolute nightmare DC is. You can't just point to one thing as to why this is happening. It's not just Ezra Miller. It's not just the fact that James Gunn announced that they're rebooting. It's not just the fact that DC's put some bad shit out lately. It's not just any of these things. It's a culmination of all of this shit that is hitting every single DC thing that comes out, but specifically this one. Michael Keaton's return as fucking Batman. And this is the end result. This is the tweet that's going around right now. The Flash is now projected to end its worldwide box office run under $350 million, which would be less than Black Adam, Eternals, Black Widow, and Uncharted. Warner Brothers will lose $300 million on this movie as a result of the underwhelming response from fans. Based on the budget they've told us, I don't know if that number's quite right, but a lot of people expected it's way, way more expensive than they've actually been disclosing. So I wouldn't be surprised if $300 million could potentially be in the cards.
And DC's failing for a completely different reason than Disney is. Warner Brothers, they're screwing up all over the place with the DC universe, but it's not why Disney is failing. So these are two different reasons why. And I agree with you, Ryan. It's not just one thing. There's no one thing you can point to. There's no excuse for this. You have the two most iconic characters of all time in comic book movies. And now in this era of comic book movies, you can't properly utilize them. There's no excuse for this. Batman and Superman are the standard. They just are. If you want to argue Spider-Man is in that conversation, you can. I still think Batman and Superman are the two most iconic, and they still fail to capitalize off of this, and I don't understand it. DC can't seem to move on from it completely. They still leave it out there enough to where that passionate fan base still sees that and wants that, but then they start adding a different tone and a different message. And of course, DC started out being that we're not going to be Marvel. We're going to be everything Marvel's not, until of course they've tried to become exactly like Marvel in that process. And Aquaman was literally an MCU movie. That's all Aquaman was. You know what I mean? It was an MCU movie with Jason Momoa with the fun kind of elements and things like that. Now we have Ben Affleck's Batman. We have Robert Pattinson's Batman. We have James Gunn coming in and going, hey guys, I'm going to take over. And what did he do? He fired Michael Jordan. He's Phil Jackson, who took over the Bulls and fired Michael Jordan. He got rid of Henry Cavill. I have no idea what the hell's going on. Ezra Miller's a terrible Flash, always has been, but this movie failed for many reasons. I don't know if there's even one thing that DC's done that you can point to and say that's the big problem they have. There's just so many of them. It's lack of leadership and lack of vision.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, when you look back at this decade run, because that's what it is now, a decade for the DCEU, which is now coming to a close, I think the biggest thing you can look at is I think there was vision there, and I think that everybody else interfered along the way. And no matter who they hired, no matter which new person came in, they all wanted to do their own different thing, and they continue to drag it this way and that way. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a movie like Suicide Squad or Justice League or like all the different things that came after that, all the different tonalities, the different, oh, well, this style of leadership is going to come in. We want to do this with it. Oh, by the way, The Rock's going to come in. He's going to do his own thing, and that's going to be the future of the DC universe until someone else comes in and says, no, actually, that's not. We're going a different direction. It's just fucking chaotic. Even for the people that really fucking viscerally hate Zack Snyder's DCEU, I think that even those people, if you look at what's happened in the last 10 years, would probably say, you know what, if they had just stuck with that plan, I probably wouldn't have liked it, but it probably would have at least been had a little more continuity, and more people would be behind it at the end of the day than what we have now. Now we have a completely, what seems like a rudderless ship, or not even a rudderless ship, a ship that has like fucking 18 rudders that are all pointed in different directions. And essentially the ship isn't going anywhere. And now it's to the point where people have no belief. They have no faith in DC. I mean, I guess it's a good thing it's getting completely and totally rebooted, because what else can you do with it at this point? When you have a $55 million opening for a movie like this that was sold as nostalgia bait, that brings back one of the most beloved superheroes that we've seen in our era when you look at Michael Keaton's Batman, and you can't even get people excited to go out. It's not like it was $55 million because everyone's like, well, it's a terrible movie. No, there's just no excitement for it. This was the hype weekend. This is the hype weekend for DC, that it shouldn't matter because people will start to get good word of mouth after the weekend. But now people have no faith or trust in anything that DC does. And James Gunn has a very, very fucking tall task ahead to be able to reboot this thing with all the anger and bitterness from so many different fan bases, sections of DC, and bring them together to get behind whatever he does in the future.